Welcome to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. I'm your host, Fabio motherfucking Ojeda, and I don't know shit, but that's okay. All right, let's get this shit started. Thank you everybody for listening to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. Hope you all enjoyed the previous episode with the guys from the No New Friends podcast. They say no new friends. I feel like I made 2 new friends, but we're back today with the brand new guest. And I want to welcome to the podcast for the very first time, Miss Thea Lambert. How you doing?
I'm great, Fabian. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing I kind of want to touch on, and I don't know, how behind the scenes you want to get with this, is that I almost stumbled my words there. I see a different name on the Zoom account there, and then I see your author name right behind you, right? I know that was a common practice for a long time. There's a lot of writers that use like what do you call it? like their pen name?
A pen
right?
name, yeah.
Is there a reason for that?
Well, I'm probably, since I'm probably a lot older than you, I'm probably still with that whole old adage, keep a simple name, something that people can understand. My last name, I might as well throw it there, is Logothetis. So anybody who encounters that on the page, I hope people would be, readers would be more open to seeing, a name that they don't normally encounter. Mm-hmm. But I just decided something easier. Thea means aunt in Greek. Mm-hmm. And so that's what my niece and nephew call me. So it's sort of my second name anyway. So I just put together Thea Lambert, something I was thinking of, the last name, thinking of changing one day. My father, he came from Greece. He was actually considering Shakespeare as the last name, and my mother, who's also Greek, but her father's name was changed also. Actually, when he arrived, they said, "Nope, you're not this, you're this now," and she's like, "No, we are not having Shakespeare." So,
that'd be interesting, right? All right, everyone, Thea Shakespeare on the podcast today. Right.
Exactly.
Tell me about your lineage, right? Tell me about, your great uncle, right?
Oh, okay. Well,
no, I was saying, if you were Shakespeare, right? If you were Shakespeare.
Shakespeare. Yes. Well, apparently, Shakespeare means Logothetis in English, I guess.
So you might be related, right?
Yeah. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. You mentioned having like that old school mentality about it, because nowadays, with anything, everybody wants to put their name out there, right? They everybody refers to themselves like, this is my brand,
Exactly. And why shouldn't we own our own name, our own ethnicity, religion? I mean, if it's important to you, I'm not saying we should foist it on others to the exclusion of their own autonomy, their own culture. But yeah, that's what's, I think, so great what's coming up nowadays, that we are supporting all sorts of different people.
Sure. Yeah. Now, I've had a lot of authors on. Everybody has their, different journeys and everything getting into it, and everybody has a different reason to write. Some people thought like, I want to do this forever. And some never, ever thought like, I'm going to write a book, just kind of like something sparked that, right? Is this something that you were interested in for a very long time? Or it's just, because I've been telling you, I've heard everything from like, I've loved it since I was a kid to I was bored during the pandemic to, there was a life-changing moment, So is this something you've been interested in for a very long time?
It was kind of one of the things I wanted to do as a kid. When I was a kid, I thought, oh, I want to be a teacher. Oh, I want to be an actress or a singer, or, it doesn't matter if I have a good voice or not. I want to be a singer. And then I got into reading. I was one of those kids who wasn't very popular. So I think we become readers because it's like having friends who are always there for you. And then I started doing some writing, at 12, 13, but never consistently. And I don't know what that was, just life, turning older, and your not your family, your friends are the most important thing, when you hit teenagehood and the independence. So I kind of moved away from it. And then about 2001, this is really a long way to get into it. My father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and it was it's very hard time. He lived until 2013. Everyone in the medical community was very surprised at how long.
It's a long time, yeah.
Died. Yeah. He was always a very strong-willed man, so I think that was it. Doesn't matter that he didn't have his memory, couldn't talk. I think there's something inside you. But what happened is, it when you go through it, it's very, very difficult. I'm not trying to be a downer.
No, go for it.
So many people have, go through bad situations. But what I started to do was started to read romance. And I was always one of those people, oh, no, that's not. And then I read something called Bridget Jones's Diary, which became a movie. And it was very different from the book, but both were great. And I enjoyed both. And I started reading what they call other chick lit books. They all consider them under romance nowadays. And I discovered, wow, this is really good. It's not that, there's certainly some, but most of it is not this, it's, dewy-eyed virgin, falling in love and happily ever after. And that's what I like, that the stories, the people were more realistic. The women aren't all wimps, and and being saved by the man. And so I started reading more and more because it became a way to, escape the pain of seeing my father and the way he was, and my mom having to deal with it. I was with her for a lot of it, but it was really mostly on her. I was, working, so she would have him, during the day. And eventually her doctor said, I know you don't want to put him in a home, but it's either you or him in terms of survival. And that's so there's, that's a heavy thing for all of us to have lived with, and to visit him every week and see his condition, etc. So once I started reading these books that made me happy, yes, there's a happily ever after. A romance has to have a happily ever after. And yes, that doesn't happen a lot in real life, but it gave me something to look forward to. And then I started getting ideas for stories of my own. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to write. I'm going to go back to what I really loved back when I was 12, 13. And I started to do some writing and take classes. And I am a big proponent of classes, as long as you don't use it as a crutch, as a way to avoid actually trying it, going through it. And that's what I was doing for a long time. And finally, I decided okay, I'm going to write. I'm going to put this story down.
Right.
And I got involved with it's a contest, if you will, called NaNoWriMo. I don't know if you ever have heard of that. National Novel Writing Month. So every November, people from all around the country, all around the world, start writing, and you they have a website, and you put in your writing, etc. And people from all over the world will try to write 50,000 word novel in 30 days.
Ooh.
That's about 1,667 words a day if you want to try every day. And I tried, failed, tried the next year, failed. I think there was a year I skipped, next year that failed. So finally, I decide I don't care anymore. I am going to get it done no matter what. You know, so I didn't get it done in 30 days. I didn't get it done by the end of the year, but by September of the next year, I had finished the 50,000. It was like, pulling teeth. It was just, but I was so pleased that I accomplished it. Do you know what I mean? So I haven't published that one. I think it could be published if I do a lot of changes to it. But that inspired me to go on to the next book, which was my first self-published book called Food Fight. And so that's how I really got started. It's something I wanted in the back of my mind, but I always was too afraid. And so I would tell people, I know you work with kids, especially kids, don't be afraid. You are going to fail.
Right.
But
it's a huge lesson there. Yeah,
exactly. But failure is okay. I think we've just, failure is not an option. Well, it's not an option, but if it happens to you, you're not going to die. And that's what I had to learn. And actually, the more and more I write, the faster I've gotten. Do you know what I mean? Like that first time, it took me till September, but the next time it was a lot faster. It wasn't that many months. Sometimes it depends on the book. Like I'm working on something now, and I'm just having such a hard time, and I don't know if it means the book isn't going to be ready yet in my head. I don't have enough in there for outline, or it just isn't meant to be. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, so I guess, I'm just trying to, summarize it all, right? It went from, writing is or reading and writing were like a passion and interest you had, to, hey, this is kind of like my escape, my happy place, right? To now it's like a challenge, right? This is a goal. This is something I need to do. To now where it's like, hey, this is what I do, and that's a really cool progression to see. I wanted to pick something you mentioned, right? You mentioned writing, romance, and how it's different from the typical, happily ever after, right? And I wonder if that aspect of, man writing, love story versus woman writing a love story I know it makes a difference, right? Because you look at everybody wants to talk about like, oh, everybody's going all woke and whatever with the Disney stories. I'm like, first of all, I hate that word. But next, it's like, well, yeah, because those old stories are so, cookie cutter, right? Where it's like, oh, save you, right? You love me, I love you, happily ever after, right? And
the tropes, the tropes are just, the kind of story people want. So I get why a lot of them are done over and over again, because readers, and I'm assuming this is readers of all genres, not just romance. We want, let's say it's paranormal, and you have some sort of shapeshifter or something like that. You want the shapeshifter to be in there, and you want the ending that other ones do, but you want the journey to be
Right.
different.
Yeah. Just
And
because like real quick, sorry, yeah, just like you
no,
mentioned
no,
with with romance novels, it's going to be a happy ending, right? However, the path there is more complicated than a simple like, okay, lady in distress, I'm going to save you, we're happily ever after, right? It's a very
right,
linear thing. And so
exactly.
I think what you're talking about is just going, let's go off this tangent. Nope, that's not going to work. Let's go in a loop, circle back, right? Oh, wait, this is completely where we started again. So it's like a huge, like, tangled web of things as opposed to just a quick, here, here, here.
Right, right. My last book, called Perfect Pairing, is about a size acceptance blogger who gets together with a personal trainer.
Oh.
And, in most stories like that, they're going to have her lose a whole heck of a lot of weight. And, she's happier now, blah, 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 and she'll, give in to his concerns about, her health, etc. At the end of my book, he loves her. That's not the issue. The issue is more how they dealt with who they were. Him being a trainer, he got into that because he wanted to stay healthy. He had a cancer incident as a young person, so his obsession is stay healthy, stay healthy, stay healthy. And hers, she thinks she's this modern fat acceptance woman, but deep down, she still wants that kind of, oh, I want people to accept me as, this thin thing, they would finally really accept me that way. And so at the end, I mean, she realizes her mistake, he realizes his, and they get back together. He accepts her weight, and he tells her, hey, I'm going to worry about you at times. That's just the way it is. But I accept you for who you are. And I wanted to do a book like that there, because in love and relationships, there's always something that we might not like about a family member or a loved one, but we know we're going to love them no matter what. And so I was proud of that, just to be able to have a story where it's not, oh, he totally goes along with her. Oh, yeah, you're not, there's no worry about your health just because they're large. He still has that concern, but he accepts her for who she is, and vice versa.
It's really interesting that you're tying in modern, things, right? You said food blogger. I'm like, everybody's a damn food blogger now, right? They sit in their car and size acceptance model.
Yeah, but blogging, everybody's got.
Yeah, but everybody has some sort of, social media thing they do, and so that's going to be a lot more relatable for some people. Some older people are like, what the hell is that, right? But I'm sure, like, if they read it, they'll be into the storytelling aspect of it, right? But I mentioned food because I was over here looking at your covers, right? You have so the mouth-watering series,
Yes,
and so you have Food Fight, Sex on a Plate. That one sounds interesting. Just Desserts and Perfect Pairing. I like how those titles kind of all play off of each other there.
And you know what? I'm one of those people that I kind of need a title before I can write. Sometimes a title is the thing that gives me the spark, which is, I think, not true with most people. And I wish it kind of weren't, because, it's sometimes hard to find a catchy, pithy title. But I like working in the or my books of the mouthwatering series are all in the restaurant food industry. I think food is not just something for sustenance. In a way, it's an art, and I'm not talking about fine dining. It doesn't have to be a little plate of nouvelle French cuisine or anything like that. any food, I think, can be an art. A good, Chicago hot dog
Mm-hmm. Well,
or
I
whatever.
barbecue all the time. Smoking
Oh,
is an art on
oh,
its own. Yeah.
I let me come to your house. I love barbecue. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But people don't really think of it as art, but
Uh-huh.
it's not only sustenance, but it's the pleasure you get, not just tasting it, but with people. If you are,
Mm-hmm.
with family or friends, it's fantastic, and I just enjoy, trying to make new foods or new dishes, and I get a lot of ideas from watching,
Food
food
Network, Cooking
TV. Yeah,
Channel.
Food
Yeah.
Network. Yes, exactly. And I'm always, ooh, that sounds great. Or Chopped, where people are giving really
Uh,
weird ingredients, but you look and it looks gorgeous, and the judges are saying, "Wow, I never thought." Pair this with that, and it's a hit.
but
Yeah.
you see, it is an art. Actually, the whole concept with Chop, when I was working with kids, I used that idea. I had
Uh-huh.
cooking clubs, and I'd be like, "You have to use this, right? And you have to make me something, unique and interesting and whatnot." And it's an art because they figure out what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like saying like, here's your three colors you get to use. Paint me something, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I really do believe that as well. And anybody who cooks knows that you put your own subtle twist on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can make something beautiful. I've made I love to cook. I don't just barbecue. I made
Uh-huh.
crazy different pizzas and pastas and some of the
Oh.
classic Mexican dishes and whatnot. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I'm 100% on board with that.
I miss. I used to live in California, so I really miss the Mexican food out
Uh-huh.
there. So anytime I get something here, it's like.
where, where are you now again? Where do you live now?
I live in a place called the Quad Cities. It's two cities in Illinois, and across the river, two cities in Iowa. I'm on the Iowa side of the Mississippi.
I see.
So,
So their idea of tacos doesn't quite line up with yours.
no, and I mean, I try to go to restaurants with people who are of Mexican heritage,
Uh-huh.
but I think what they have to do is they can't put all their own personality, because you have to sell. I mean, they have to make a
Mm-hmm.
living, and if Joe Blow really doesn't like it that spicy, and it doesn't have to be spicy. I think
Right.
people are always saying, "Oh, Mexican means spicy." Maybe
Not always,
they.
yeah.
Right, it doesn't always. I mean, it's a huge country. There's fascinating different cuisines. Rick Bayless and I forgot her name. I always watch their food programs on
Uh-huh.
PBS. But yeah, there's different cuisines in that huge country, and
Yeah.
yes, I do get you have to,
Appease the audience, yeah.
right, yeah, and contract the variety,
Mm-hmm.
but it's disappointing because the variety here is kind of. I'm going to be insulting. I'm sorry, Iowa. I love your sunsets, but you need help with your Mexican cuisine.
This is something I heard one time on, I think, on Chopped or something.
Uh-huh.
And it pissed me off. I was like, there was a Mexican guy making Mexican food, right?
Right.
And he made some kind of tacos. And then one of the judges, who was like Indian or something,
Uh-huh.
right, had the audacity to say, it doesn't quite feel like a taco. When I think taco, you need cheese. I'm like, you shut your filthy mouth. How are you going to
Exactly.
tell a Mexican guy making
Right.
Mexican food that he's not making a Mexican enough taco because it doesn't have cheese?
Yeah, exactly. I think our brains, as of yet, maybe one day, will be expanded enough to accept a non-cheesy taco or or
Well,
whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's like
uh,
we get very contracted in what we believe is what.
uh-huh,
All Mexican food must have a tortilla
uh-huh.
a cheese, and
Well, the
the
cheese part threw me
variety.
off.
Yeah, but the variety is so amazing. And that's like with other countries too, you know.
Uh-huh.
Um, I used to work with a girl who is half Filipino, half Mexican, and we used to talk about food. It just happened to talk about foods that were hot. And
Hmm.
she loved, and then, you know, she knew I was Greek. And one day she went to a Greek festival and she was so disappointed because Greek food doesn't really have chilies or hot elements. And she thought because I loved it, it meant that all Greeks put a bunch of chilies, jalapenos in their food. And yeah.
Uh-huh. And I don't know if I've had authentic Greek food, but Greek food's real good too. You know.
Yes, I'm a big fan. Try to, especially I'm now my mom's caregiver. She's 90, and so she kind of goes back to, oh, I want this, and that, you know, what things her grandmother would make. And
What
I'm
what's that dish that looks like lasagna? It starts with a P, I think.
pasticcio. And the
Past-
only, yeah, Pastichio. The difference with it is, you know, they use, instead of lasagna noodles, they use more like a penne or a rigatoni. And then instead of the mozzarella on top, they make a bechamel sauce,
Hmm.
that white creamy sauce, and pour it on, and you know, it gets nice and firm in the oven.
Kind of
And
like a baked ziti almost, huh?
yes, yes, exactly. And a lot of Italians have the same. I don't know if Italians went to Greece and it kind of, you know, became part of the Greek cuisine or vice versa. But yeah, they have a similar dish. And you're making me hungry now.
Yeah, no, I can go on forever. Actually, at work now, I train people to work with kids, and so one of the opening questions that I always use is, what's your favorite food? And we have a 5 hour training, and I think I kill almost an hour having a conversation about what's your favorite food. But it's always something to get people talking, which is I think why it's really cool that you put food and cooking and things like that into your writing.
Yeah, I was saying it's something we all we have to have sustenance. And I'm so glad the higher power gave us different types of food, because it would be so boring if we just had, some sort of thing cracker that, yeah, might give us all the nutrients we need, but so boring. God gave us, five senses.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know you're a musician, and that's,
You did your research, didn't you?
I try.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, food for me, and I'm not talking as somebody's heavy, but food is sort of the most important, or taste is the most important thing, for me. Perhaps sound is for you. It's not that I don't appreciate music or, the babbling of a brook or anything like that. It's just I happen to be fond of taste, I guess.
Yeah, no, same here. I can definitely get behind that. It's really funny because like if I don't like something, right, it's very apparent and it's immediate too. I had actually just last night I had my brother he got me like a chicken sandwich, right? And I'm like, oh, this looks good. First bite, I'm like, my face just drops. Like this is the driest garbage I've ever had. Like, and he got insulted. I'm like, hey, you didn't cook it, like. I'm just giving you an honest, thank you, but I'm just giving you an honest opinion. I started knocking on the damn piece of chicken because it was that hard. It had like a sound like wood almost.
Must have been a chicken breast. I don't know why people love chicken breast so much. It's like you said, wood practically. So you would not make a very good judge on Chopped. Because it would be too fast to your face. You'd have to hide it or something.
Oh, yeah. As far as that aspect, yeah, I wouldn't have a good poker face. I think I would be a great judge though, because I'd be honest. Some of these people, they start throwing out their technical terms and stuff like that. I'm like, you don't even know what you're talking about. You're
Yeah,
just saying what you learned and regurgitating it. Is it good or not? You know, because sometimes they'll eat some stuff that looks amazing and then they start picking it apart. And then sometimes they'll eat some stuff that looks like it's garbage, it's not seasoned, and they'll talk about how great it is. So I'm just like, you know, I'm simple. You know, it's
right,
just like you mentioned the five senses, right? You know, what's the texture like? What's the feel? You know, what's the smell like? You know, does it
exactly,
taste good? You know, visually, does it draw you in? You know,
exactly.
so all of those things. I mean, I don't know how I could put sound in there, but you know,
Well,
maybe the sizzles.
have you ever seen somebody cut a piece of like fried chicken
Uh-huh.
and you hear that crunch? I was watching
Ah.
see, this is how you know I'm really into food. I was watching oh, what's that? America's Test Kitchen, and they had made fried chicken, and then they put the mic real close and said, "Oh my God, that's a beautiful sound."
Yeah, and that's another thing on the internet these days. I don't know what do they call it, ASMR or I don't know, something like that.
Yes, yes, where they show things that apparently it's a very calming or a thing to show strange, like pouring soda into, and it
Mm-hmm.
overflows and all these different things. I think it's actually very good. I think it are a good thing because I think in our stressful times, let's face it, with the internet and social media and how much we have to do now with computers, it's kind of nice just to have something to focus on that isn't important at all, just
Mm-hmm.
has a cool look or sound, and you can just go, ah. And I notice a lot of young people seem to really like it. So I think it's a way for them to tune out all the noise we put, which is kind of the negative about the internet and social media.
It's funny because I'm not an old man, but I feel sometimes like I'm that old man shaking my fist at the clouds, right? And I'm like, who finds that interesting? Like, why would
Yeah,
anybody do that? And then I watch and I see how many views it has. I'm like, oh shit, there's a lot of people that like this, right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, same thing with people eat, you know, food bloggers that eat in their cars. I'm like, who would want to watch? Like, if I'm eating in my car, right? Do I have an audience standing at my window? You know what I mean? And so, but you know what? There's an audience for that. There's like thousands of people that do it, right? And they have followings. You know, I interviewed a couple of young girls from Canada that started doing this, and they got a following from it. And they explained
Wow.
how, you know, even when them two together, when they're eating breakfast in the morning, sometimes they'll put on the TV or on the phone or tablet what they call what it sounds like a Korean term or something like that. Uh, I forget. I'll think of it in a second, but that you know, put on one of those videos where somebody's eating in their car, right? Just to kind of feel like they have a third person there. I'm like, that's to me, it's nuts, but it makes sense to a lot of people. You know, again, and that goes with that whole, you know, food and eating, and it's kind of an art, but also a bringing together of people.
Right. Maybe the whole idea of someone looking at this, even far away, it's still an experience. You're still kind of sharing. I would think the ultimate sharing would be around a table, sharing the exact same thing and talking about it or whatever's going on in your day. That's why I admire a lot of um, countries that the the dinner or the lunch, is over an hour long, and people are sitting back, they're enjoying, they're conversing, they're enjoying their food. We don't really have that here in the
Huh.
States. You know,
Right?
I mean,
We've just figured out the popularity of they call them mukbangs, by the way. We just
oh,
figured out the
okay.
popularity of mukbangs. You made me realize that. We don't have that, right? We don't have
we
that togetherness.
no, and I think the one of the few good things about the lockdown was people had to eat meals together. I mean, I would hear so many times about people, oh, my daughter, tonight is going to a soccer practice and my son has this. And, you're not eating as a family. And so I'm probably showing my age a whole lot with saying that, but because my parents know, we sat around a table, we didn't have the TV on, we shared. It wasn't a whole hour or more. I think my parents succumbed to the American thing there, but at least we had conversations, even if during our teenage years, which I'm sure we were. I don't recall because I'm so perfect, but we were probably surly teenagers going, in answer to questions. So that would be, I think, the only good thing about the lockdowns. People had to be together, and if they didn't kill each other, they could enjoy a nice meal together, a nice conversation.
For sure, yeah. Now, I'd love to talk about killing each other during the lockdown more, but I want to just touch on your books a little bit, right? More.
Okay.
What's your most recent release, or what, or what's coming up? Well, either one.
Okay. Well, Perfect Pairing, the one about the fat acceptance blogger, that was released a couple of months ago. My new one, and shameless plug,
Go for it,
is called His Blue Collar Countess. And this is a very, probably to a lot of people, a worn out trope of marriage of convenience. I just got the idea, hey, instead of having a rich man needing help and let's go to the poor girl, we have a poor girl who becomes rich from the lottery. And she learns that a well-known historian on TV, who is now a count, earl rather, because his older brother has passed, he needs funds desperately to keep his home. And as she grew up just with a mother, she admires the fact that he can, for 500 years, has this history. How many people know the history, say, of their great grandparents? I mean, if they, I so admire people who can do that. I think that's why ancestry is so big. So she makes a deal with him if he will marry her and teach her. She always wanted to be a historian herself, and have her, teach her English history and bring her to places where she can meet other famous people in the, working in history. She will give him several $1 million as a way to start his repairs of his ancestral home, which is falling apart. And anyone who's read about these ancestral homes, at least in England, I don't know about other places, but after someone dies, somebody high up, the death taxes are so much that many times these people had to, just leave their homes. They had to sell everything, and this stuff is history. I mean, even if you don't have to necessarily have the people in there. A lot of these aristocrats would give them to the state, to England, and they become, museums. And I mean, I love history, so to me, this would be a great thing if I were Lucy, my character, and all of a sudden I came up with a lot of money, to go living a huge estate and learn about what it was like all these years. Of course, there's romance ensues, but I just liked the idea of this whole idea of she's all alone in the world. Her mother has passed, and he's alone because his parents, his father has passed, his brother, his mother is a horror, and they begin to appreciate each other for what they are, rather, what they are internally rather than externally. Her working at like a Costco, and him, being an earl. So, and a famous TV historian. So, I'm very proud of it, and it's coming out October 24th. So if you do like romance, and you do like twists on marriage of convenience tropes, it's the book for you.
Hey, get your book in that Costco, right? People
Yeah.
get their pizza and their book.
Oh yeah.
Now with this, with you being an author and everything like that, for things like this, sometimes it's everything you do, that's your career path kind of thing. And for some people, it's a hobby, right? What is it for you? What is an author for you? This is like 100% you're all in, or like you have to work around like, another full-time job, or, I mean, where, I guess what I'm asking is, where is writing taking you?
Well, I've always wanted to make it a full-time career, but most people know it's something that you have to blend into other things, unless you want to live on the street. You need to work. I think people don't realize how many books are out a year, and so readers have such a large choice. I think it's like 4 million books come out a year. So, no matter how good you are, say at marketing or things like that, it's still a small percentage of people who may or may not buy your book. So I'm hoping one day to make it full-time. Right now, I am full-time caregiving for my mom, who's 90. It's kind of sad because now it's her turn. She doesn't have dementia, fortunately. But she's getting older and more infirm. So I'm taking care of her, and hopefully we'll have her here for a long time. Right. 90 years old, though. I mean, that's
that's up there, right?
Yeah.
Well, with with as far as like where people can find you, right? Where can people look you up, or find your social media or anything like that?
Well, I have a website, Thea Lambert, TheaLambert.com. And I also am on Facebook, and my Twitter handle is Thea Lambert 10. And I try to be a good social media person, but I think it's the fact that I'm not into it as much as younger people are. I know I keep using my age, but it wasn't something that I had growing up, so it's not something that I got to be on that page. So I do try to write in, and you can see pictures of my dog Phoebe.
You're not doing this whole thing, right? People, blogging their every single step, every move.
No. I mean, you were mentioning, the food, and I get, taking a picture here and there, but it's like, okay, you're crossing the street to grab a ball that fell in your neighbor's. I don't. It's almost like, look at me. I mean, that's actually something I should write about, because
I was gonna say that, and how you love food, so and how some people take pictures of the most unappealing food and post it and they're proud of it. Like, okay, I get if you made something, right? Even if it's the crappiest looking thing you've ever seen, I'm like, okay, at least you made it. Right?
Yeah.
There are people out there who will buy a damn, tuna sandwich from the gas station, unwrap it, take a picture of it, and be like, lunch. Like, so do you want me to say, do you want me to say wow, or do you want me to say poor you? Like, what do you want from me?
Yeah, it's like, do you really? I mean, if they wrote, okay, this is the first food I'm eating now in 19 days. I mean, that would be
A story,
a
yeah.
story, but I worry that, and as since you work with children, I worry that we're almost making every child think they have to be internet famous,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and so quickly. And I hope one day that, after this has been around for a while, I mean, I think it's going to take another bunch of years, but hopefully kids will see, hey, I don't have to be internet famous. I can just be me. I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't enjoy trying to do something on social media, but the goal is to share your soul, not get those clicks. And hopefully kids will figure that out.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else you want to share about the the author's life, or you yourself, your books or anything like that before we go?
Well, if you like food, you'll love the mouth-watering series. I have a few other books in mind, hopefully coming up in 2024. I have a couple of books that take place in a small town near Lake Tahoe. And the theme, if you will, is someone coming back to town that hasn't been there for a while. So I'm calling it Return to Draperville. And so I'm got two of those. Haven't haven't gotten the format yet. I got to work on the drafts. And then soon, hopefully those will come out very soon. And I'm thinking of adding a couple of more books to Mouth-Watering. I love writing about food, so
hey, you got the titles. You got the titles for sure, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's an exciting time. I mean, despite the fact that I'm taking care of my mom 24/7, or practically 24/7, I have to give it to my sister, who makes as much time as she can. But it's hard, and I was laid off right before my mom started to get real sick. So it made total sense, because my job, it wasn't that I didn't like my job, but it was an office job. And
right. Yeah.
I can, that's why writing's so much more interesting to me. I can be somebody else for, a few hours a day, and make and create friends that I would love if, if they came to life, So I just want to tell people who do love writing or reading to give writing a shot. Check out that NaNoWriMo, because you never know, you might be coming author yourself.
Yeah. Can kids do that? Can kids do that?
Yes, there's one for kids. And then from what I understand, they do it, the main one is in November. But they have ones, in, I believe, April and July as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, and they have instructions for teachers about how to work on it. That's for really the cool, students. Yeah, I think it's a great way for kids to express themselves, I know I'm probably biased about it, because I'm saying it's writing, and there's all sorts of ways to express yourself. But if with kids, I think it's fun for them to have an assignment that isn't, oh, so boring. What did I do on summer vacation?
I got a quick writer's experience for me from I believe it was fifth grade. It was fifth grade, because I remember the teacher, in fact. And they try to teach you things about English and things like alliteration, right? And this teacher told us to write a poem, and I remember the poem that I wrote. Now I did get cut off, so I don't remember the whole thing, because I didn't get to recite the whole thing. But it was called "Damn Dirty Dogs."
Oh,
okay. And it started off, and I remember to this day because it was so funny, and I've told the story. And I started off, I remember I was just a little kid reading in front of the class, right? Damn dirty dogs do damn dirty things, damn it. Like taking damn dumps down by the Fabian, right? Like, stop, you know. Uh, but that is alliteration.
It
You know?
is. It is. It was.
And,
I like that.
yeah, I think I was the only one to get it right, by the way. So, Miss Rambo, fifth grade teacher, ha. Right?
But I bet you anything, at the end of the day, Miss Rambo was cracking up at your,
Probably.
she couldn't do it in front of you. You must be proper, but.
Well, probably, yeah. Oh my God, you know what? If you ever need inspiration about, how teachers and people that work with principals even really are, ask me, because once I started, like hanging out and going to bars and stuff with teachers and principals, I'm like, this is nothing like I thought. You think that they're, these angels, right? Or these perfect people. Some of them are real scumbags, but it is what it is.
At least you can predict now from what you saw in the past. You can go, oh yeah, that one's not good. I might take you up on that, Fabian. So
yeah, I got stories.
You're giving me ideas now.
Yeah, I'm like, what? I'm not a writer, but I'm like, I always get ideas, for before we get out of here, because you mentioned, bringing things from your own experience and everything like that, right? And this is for anybody, I think, that wants to maybe start writing too, is that, just need that spark, right? Because I remember doing in college, I had to do like a creative writing class, and our challenge from the professor, he was like, he did writing more so like for movies and TV and stuff like that, right? Was like, create, a quick, I think it was something minimal. It was like 5-page, script, right? And I couldn't get anything. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do. I've never written a script.
Right, before. Right.
And he says, well, he just picked my brain. What do you know? What do you know? And at the time, I was working with kids, yes, but I was also a bouncer, and I'd been a bouncer for a very long time. And he starts talking. He goes, okay, talk to me about that. That sounds interesting. And he starts throwing all the, typical stuff in there. I'm like, it's nothing like that, dude. Like,
wow.
It was like, it's actually kind of boring. But there are stories, it's more so about the people you meet, right? The regulars and things like that. And he goes, well, why don't you go with that? And I ended up writing about a 40-page, little, I guess if you wanted to make it like a TV pilot, you could, but it just takes that spark, I think.
Yes. Yeah. There's always, and it's so nice that you had this mentor for that, because it sounds like you might not have had the confidence to think, hey, I got something in here or in here that could be a great story. And it sounds to me like it was a great story. You should probably find that script and I mean, nowadays with all the streaming services, I mean, I bet you they're always looking for material. I don't know, but
I'm gonna write the Mighty Ducks of high school wrestling. Watch, because I know high school wrestling, and I think a lot of people think it is one way, but I'm like, no. You don't know all the little things,
Right.
So yeah, right. But we'll see. I don't know. I've got a lot of things to do, right? But I want to thank you for being on. I really, had a fun conversation with this one. I like to talk food for days.
Well, thank you. I was, a little nervous. Oh, am I going to have enough to say? But you made it very easy and enjoyable. And that's why I was willing, to take a chance, because I watched or heard your other podcast, and I was like, wow, okay, he's excellent. So
what I got to ask, because it's like the one of the first times somebody's listened to multiple episodes. Some people have.
Yeah, the last week, the No New Friends.
No New Friends.
Which was funny, because there was an episode that this, at the same time I watched that about from Tacoma FD. I don't know if you watched that show, but there's a line where it's like, this is ridiculous. No one should have new friends after 40. And that's what kind of reminded me with the No New Friends podcast. And then also A.X. Foster, he was fascinating.
Jeez. Oh my God. Yeah. I was going to say there was a lot of authors on before, and I was going to recommend, if you hadn't listened, listen to him, because he can tell a story.
Oh yeah. Maybe you could put together your wrestling ducks with one of his court cases, and you guys could write together or something like that.
We'll see. Yeah. And then we'll call you, and then we'll make
we'll throw some romance in there, you know.
Right. But again, thank you so much. Again, a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, and then good luck on everything you do.
Oh, thank you, and you as well. And you have a wonderful day.
Absolutely. For everybody listening at home, I appreciate it. Thank you. Fuck you, and good night.
Subscribe to the Ignorance is Strength podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Like, follow, and share on Facebook and Instagram at Ignorance is Strength Podcast, and on Twitter at The Ignorance Pod.